Good evening, South Mississippi. Meteorologist Taylor Graham here, joining you from the newsroom, and we are just a few days away from Christmas, and I know a lot of people still doing some last-minute shopping, running those errands over the next day or so, going into Christmas Eve. And I've got a complete breakdown of what to expect Christmas Eve and Christmas Day in terms of the weather. And starting off with tonight, we've already started to notice some fog develop, especially along the coast, and the fog likely going to continue into Christmas Eve and also Christmas Day. That could impact some of your travel plans, not only here in South Mississippi, but also along the Gulf Coast. We're seeing some of that fog becoming an issue, even in parts of southeast Louisiana and also into parts of Alabama. So let's go ahead and take a look at where that fog is starting to develop tonight. We look at this based off of visibilities. They've dropped below a mile, it looks like, near Moss Point, Pascagoula, up into Mobile. Visibilities have dropped below a mile. We're seeing thick fog developing in Bay St. Louis and Picayune. Not quite as dense just yet, thankfully, near Gulfport and Biloxi. But when I was out on my dinner break, I could tell that the fog was starting to develop. You could tell in the distance it looked a little hazy, a little foggy, and it did have a lot of condensation on my car. So as we get into the rest of tonight, you can expect more of that fog to develop. And we can see it here. This is what's supposed to be looking into Jones Park from downtown Gulfport, but obviously the fog beginning to thicken up a little bit more. 65 at the airport. We have a dew point of 64. The temperature and dew point, they're really close to each other. That means the relative humidity close to 100%. So we will continue to see some of that dense fog develop overnight tonight into Wednesday morning to start off Christmas Eve. Just a few other views on the coast. This is a live look from our Silver Slipper Tower cam over in Hancock County near Bay St. Louis and Waveland. Really difficult to see much other than the fog at this point over in that area. And this is what's supposed to be overlooking the I-110 bridge. You can see the sign there of the IP Casino, but other than that, we are just seeing some of that fog. And it definitely has gotten more and more dense over the past hour or so. So thick, dense fog expected to develop again tonight into tomorrow morning. A foggy start to our Christmas Eve. Temperature-wise, pretty mild for this time of the year, in the upper 50s, where normally our lows are in the low to mid 40s. So maybe not quite feeling like the holidays at this point with that mild weather. Not only are we expecting this fog overnight tonight, but chances are it's going to be lingering around tomorrow morning. The dense fog advisory doesn't expire until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Notice there too, the dense fog advisory expands into a lot of Louisiana, up into the Pine Belt, coastal Alabama, the Florida Panhandle. So this is impacting a lot of areas along the Gulf Coast. And if you're going to be traveling early tomorrow morning, a heads up, the fog may slow you down. Make sure that your low beams are turned on. And I would give yourself some extra time to get to your destination if you are traveling out and about tomorrow morning. And even as we head into the afternoon tomorrow, I wouldn't be shocked if a little bit of that patchy fog still lingers in some spots along the coast. And the dense fog also going to be an issue over the sound and also offshore. So we can see here visibilities likely going to be getting below a mile at times. As we head into the afternoon on Christmas Eve, some of the fog will begin to mix out, clear out, break apart. But I've seen this before where sometimes a little bit of that fog may linger right along the coast, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be the case. So dense fog likely tonight into Christmas Eve. There's a pretty good chance we're going to see more of this dense fog the night of Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. If you're going to be going to any, maybe you're going to a midnight mass service on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, you may also be running into some of that thick fog as well. Just something to keep in mind if you're going to be out and about late tomorrow night, and also if you're traveling on the morning of Christmas Day. So set up right now, we've got an area of high pressure at the surface to our east, setting up near the Big Bend area of Florida. Based off of this position, we've got a little bit of a southeast wind. That's helping to increase the dew point, increase the humidity. And now that we are cooling down close to the dew point, it's easy for that fog to develop near the surface. Now in the upper levels, we have a big ridge of high pressure. That's pretty much right over the Gulf right now. And when we have a ridge, we typically get sinking air As that air sinks and reaches the surface, it warms. And this ridge of high pressure was one of the reasons why it was so warm today. We had high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. Certainly did not feel like December today. I think a lot of us can agree on that. In fact, in my opinion, it felt more like a spring day, especially with it being just a little bit on the humid side. So this ridge of high pressure, this sticks around tomorrow and also into Christmas Day. So overall, we're looking at a pretty warm Christmas this year. Some spots in South Texas still holding on to the low 70s. 70 right now in Houston. We're still seeing the 60s in Memphis and Dallas. The Southeast this year is going to be nice and warm for Christmas. No white Christmas in the forecast here, that's for sure. We are going to be much too warm for that, but I don't think many of us ever expected to have a warm Christmas here in South Mississippi. So fog tomorrow morning. Once we get closer to midday, some of the fog will begin to mix out a little bit. If we're able to clear the fog on the coast, we will be warming up near 70. It's a pretty good chance that if you live north of I-10 or farther inland, you're going to be in the mid 70s tomorrow. And then as we get closer to the sunset and shortly after the sunset, more of that widespread dense fog is expected to develop. So Christmas Eve, foggy in the morning, fairly warm in the afternoon. Christmas Day, very similar. I'm expecting more of that fog in the morning. Then by the afternoon, some areas a little farther inland likely going to be back in the 70s. I will say along the coast, this is going to be a bit of a tricky forecast. If the fog still lingers along the coast, we may not make it out of the 60s. Along and south of I-10, I would say. So I dropped the high temperature a little bit for coastal areas. I'm still more confident that inland areas are going to be back into at least the low to mid 70s, especially if we get more of that sunshine to reappear by the morning. But depending on how long that fog sticks around, we may be a little bit cooler along the coast. So stay tuned on that. All in all, though, not really a wintry forecast by any means here in South Mississippi with those temperatures in the 60s and 70s. Like I mentioned earlier, across the Southeast, it is going to be a warm holiday this year, even in the Ohio Valley, up into St. Louis, Louisville, even in the 60s. It's really not until you get up into parts of the Midwest and New England that things are going to be much cooler, feeling more like Christmas up there. But along the Gulf Coast and the Southeast this year, it is definitely going to be a toasty Christmas. That being said, winter is far from over, and even though we are going to be warmer over the next several days, we are still looking at a pretty big cool down by the beginning of next week. So starting on Monday of next week, things are looking much colder. We've got a big cold front moving in by the end of Sunday and into Monday. Our high temperatures are going to be plummeting back into the 50s along the coast. Farther inland, we're going to be pushing 80 by Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be very warm. And then we turn sharply cooler. Monday, high temperatures farther inland in the mid 50s. There's a possibility that by Tuesday, we may not even get out of the 40s for some of our inland spots. Then low temperatures are likely going to be back into the 30s by Tuesday morning of next week. This cold front at this time set to move in early Monday morning, so it may not be as cold by Monday morning, but Tuesday morning, we're getting more and more confident that we're going to be seeing temperatures close to freezing. So I'm going to show you the European model and the GFS model, what they are projecting for possible temperatures early Tuesday morning. This is the 30th. You can see here, low to mid 30s, which would mean we are going to be getting close to freezing. Maybe some frost is going to be possible. The GFS, the American model, also showing something very similar, even hinting at some 20s a little bit farther inland across the Pine Belt. So when you factor in the breeze as well, it's probably going to make it feel a good bit cooler. So Old Man Winter, he's going to be making a reappearance once we get into early next week. And that's likely going to be the case as we wrap up the month of December, first few days of January, likely looking at cooler than average or normal temperatures across the East Coast. On the flip side, the West Coast likely going to be warmer than average. So for those of you that want more of the Christmas-like feel, it's coming in behind schedule this year. It's not going to be until early next week, right around this time next week, that it's going to be feeling more like winter. As for tomorrow, Christmas, and especially this weekend, very warm. We're not looking at a record-breaking Christmas, I would say, but it is going to be on the warm side for us. In terms of travel, rain is not going to be a factor, but the fog is going to be an issue overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. And that being said, we also expect more dense fog the night of Christmas Eve and into Christmas Day. So heads up for travelers out there. You may just need to give yourself some extra time to get to your destination. So time now is 9:45. We will be having our 10 o'clock newscast coming up here shortly in about 15 minutes. I'll have another update on your holiday forecast, and we'll have all of the information on all the news going on in South Mississippi. So we hope you'll join us at 10 o'clock.